We still don't know when President Trump will issue an executive order to abolish the U.S. Department of Education, but NBC News has reported it is coming.
Yeah, he wants to put states in charge of education policy, but states say they are not prepared. So we have Dr. Rosemarie Allen, a professor at MSU Denver, here to talk a little bit more about some of the impacts, including on children with disabilities. Good morning, Dr. Allen.
Good morning.
Talk to us about the impact of President Trump's plan to dismantle the Department of Education, specifically when it comes to children with disabilities.
Absolutely, and I think what we have to do is go back to the history. And the Department of Education was actually established in our country in 1867. And it was established shortly after the Civil War to really provide guidance to states on how to improve the education system. But very conservative Congress people, they had a problem with it. They opposed it because they saw it as an effort to educate formerly enslaved people. So as a result of that, the department was demoted to an Office of Education housed in the Department of the Interior. And in 1979, President Jimmy Carter reestablished the Department of Education to ensure equal access and to provide guidance to states to really improve the nation's educational system so that all children can benefit. So that's what we see today. And when you look at that history and who's served by the Department of Education, children with disabilities, they really benefit from federal oversight and the leadership and guidance and the assurance of compliance with education laws.
So what alternatives would be offered if the Department of Education is dissolved?
Well, as you stated, one of the alternatives is to reallocate the funding directly to states. And then states will have the autonomy to decide how they spend their education dollars. But we know throughout history that has not worked very well with children with disabilities because they're very often not prioritized. And there's a fear that the funding and the support will be abolished as well. So that's one of the alternatives. The other alternative is to take the individual with IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act, and to put it in a different federal department. And that's more appealing to families with children with disabilities because they can ensure that compliance with that law and the funding that supports it will be maintained.
How can parents respond to these potential changes?
You know, what's beautiful is when we look back, we know that IDEA Parts B and C, which really offer services to children from birth through 5, that was a parent-led act. That was a parent-led movement. They fought hard to get services for their children. So every child from birth has a right to a free and appropriate education. So if families tap into that foundation that was built and really partner together, create coalitions so that they can not only share resources, but advocate on behalf of their children. And they can do that at different levels. So one is the federal level, speaking to Congress folks. And then the second is to work with state legislators to make sure that the needs of children with disabilities are front and centered. And then at the district level, to really go to board meetings and to talk about their children and what their needs are. And then also the school level, to talk to principals, to speak with their teachers, to make sure that their child's IEP, the individual education program, is followed, and 504 plans are protected, because right now the concern with the funding going back to the states is that their children won't get the services. And right now there are 17 states that have filed a federal lawsuit to abolish 504 plans. And those plans provide accommodations for children with disabilities through their college years.
Yeah, things are moving very fast, but what you're saying here is your voice matters, your voice counts for sure. Dr. Allen, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.